The 1980s brought us Mr. T, the Back to the Future movies, and zany snacks by the truckload, many of which featured Mr. T and Back to the Future. Some of those MTV-era munchies fought the good fight and are still among the most popular household treats, but others faded into the sunset and haven't been seen on shelves for years. So today, we're going to take a look at some surprising facts about popular 80s snacks. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other forgotten foods you would like to hear about. Okay, hop on in the DeLorean because we're gonna go back in time. Back in the 1980s, Bill Cosby was famous for being the biggest sitcom star in the world and for shamelessly hawking products like General Foods' Jell-O Pudding Pops. Whatever they were paying him, the money was well spent. Jell-O Pudding Pops became a staple in many families' freezers and did $300 million in sales per year. So why don't people still love them today? Well, the short answer is that they don't make them anymore. Despite their incredible sales, Pudding Pops weren't actually making the company any money. See, the company wasn't in the frozen food business. The Pudding Pop was their one and only frozen item, so the cost of producing and storing the pops chewed through their profits. It's hard to keep a good brand down, so in 2004, Jello tried to revive the Pudding Pop by licensing it to the makers of popsicles. But these new Pudding Pops used a different mold from the original, making them less recognizable to fans, and they didn't taste the same as the old ones, so it didn't really take off. But if watching this video is making you want a Pudding Pop, have no fear. You can still buy Jell-O Pudding Pop kits to make your own at home. It's the same treat you always loved, but with the added bonus of getting to make it yourself. That's one way to offset those production costs. Wally Amos started baking chocolate chip cookies as a personal comfort when his other business ventures failed to take off. He eventually founded his cookie company Famous Amos in 1975 and was met with almost instant success because he was selling Famous Amos cookies. Have you had one? They're incredible. But Amos wanted more than an empire of sweet treats, and he decided to use his success to do for adult literacy what he had done for cookies. So, on April 10, 1979, Amos became the national spokesperson of Literacy Volunteers of America. It was that association that would eventually lead to a TV hosting gig. Amos later recalled being contacted by Kentucky Educational TV to host a series of reading segments for a show called GED on TV. It must have gone well because Amos went on to MC 2 more programs for KET, a series of half-hour shows called Learn to Read and Another Page, a half-hour show for adult learners. He would later boast that he had 50 half-hour shows circulating out there that have something to do with helping people further their education. Also, he had all those cookies. In 1981, Conagra Brands released Act 1 microwave popcorn. It was created by Dr. Percy Spencer, who engineered the design for microwave popcorn in 1947 and was granted a patent in 1949. Although he hadn't quite figured the whole thing out yet. In his original sketches, the popcorn is packaged in a bag with the whole cob inside, and the kernels still attached. Also, it used real dairy butter, which meant the bag of popcorn needed to be refrigerated. You're basically just throwing a full ear of corn into a sack of butter and tossing it into the microwave, like a hero. And because Act 1 popcorn was based on Spencer's design, it also required refrigeration. But you can't stop progress, and they were able to make the popcorn better, stronger, and faster. Well, they made it better at least. In 1984, Conagra unveiled Act 2 microwave popcorn. Unlike Act 1, Act 2 was shelf-stable, meaning it didn't need to be refrigerated. This is otherwise known as real or actual popcorn. So far, Conagra has seen no need for Act 3, but when it comes to success at the movies, there's always another sequel. Back in the 1980s, corporate America realized there was a ton of money to be made in popular diet fads. And while the idea of frozen meals was certainly nothing new, frozen meals that actually had something resembling nutritional content were pretty much unheard of. That's why in 1981, Nestle, the same company that brought you the less health-conscious Crunch Bar, introduced the world to lean cuisine. And in fairness, they are pretty good for you. In fact, the word lean in the name lean cuisine is considered to be a health claim by the Food and Drug Administration. That means the products have to meet the lean standards. It must contain less than 10 grams of fat, 4.5 grams or less of saturated fat, and less than 95 milligrams of cholesterol. And it must be able to run a 6-minute mile. Maybe because of the health craze, or maybe because of the catchy rhyming name, or maybe because Nestle spent $8 million to advertise it in the first year, an amount that was unheard of at the time, the product quickly became a leader in frozen diet entrees. In fact, lean cuisine entrees grew so popular that during the first year of business, the company tripled their sales projections. In fact, due to the extreme, almost scary levels of demand from consumers across the country, Nestle had to ration the amount of entrees it sold to retailers. In 1982, E. Allen McDonald, the president of frozen food competitor Stouffer's, told the New York Times, "We think it's the most exciting thing that has ever happened in the food business." We imagine he was grinding his teeth pretty hard when he said it. The Smurfs was a popular cartoon from the 1980s featuring a village of magical little creatures called Smurfs and the weird old man who wants to eat them. And in the 80s, being popular meant you got a breakfast cereal named after you. It was like a federal law. The Smurfs were no exception, and in 1982, Smurf Berry Crunch was unveiled by Post Cereal, the same company that makes Fruity Pebbles based on the Flintstones and Grape Nuts based on, grapes and nuts. Since Smurf language can be a little difficult to decode, every other word they say is Smurf, like a town of proto-Groots, nobody is quite sure what a Smurf berry is. What we do know, however, is that the popular cartoon-themed breakfast cereal turned the poo of those who ate it a Smurfy blue. According to an article by Slash Film in 2017, the reason for the colorful restroom break was the amount of blue dye in the recipe. This is a much more comforting explanation than our original guess: Smurf's blood. The cereal changed the formula and eventually rebranded as Magic Berries in 1987. Licenses can be expensive, but Magic Berries is just a way less Smurfy name. Pop-Tarts were created in the 1960s by the innovative culinary geniuses at Kellogg's. They got the idea by stealing it from their chief competitor, Post, who had announced their new foil-wrapped breakfast pastries, Country Squares, a little too prematurely before bringing them to market. Also, Country Squares sounds like a book of weak dance moves, which can't have helped. The name Pop-Tart was a play on the name of the pop art movement, which was apparently at the tip of everyone's tongues back then. We're not sure if anyone actually got the joke, but it didn't matter because the product exploded in popularity like a molten breakfast pastry from a toaster. Those early Pop-Tarts were unfrosted and came in just 4 flavors: brown sugar cinnamon, strawberry, blueberry, and appleberry. The first frosted varieties wouldn't actually drop until 1967, and one of the first to be frosted were crisp apple Pop-Tarts, which were originally called Dutch apple Pop-Tarts. What set this flavor apart was its sweet cinnamon streusel topping. In fact, the Dutch apple Pop-Tart became one of the 3 official toaster pastries of the 1984 U.S. Olympic team. Heck, that's a higher honor than winning a gold medal. Although, we bet Dutch Apple could have taken one home. Released in 1989 by Oscar Mayer, Lunchables were prepackaged foods that could quickly be combined into something resembling a meal. They were designed to help ease the lunch-making process after research showed that the primary concern of American mothers when it came to making lunch was prep time. The creators of the snack packs aimed to help those mothers out, and if they sold some Oscar Mayer lunch meat in the process, well, hey, a rising tide lifts all baloney. Lunchables were designed to be an on-the-go snack that would save moms time and revolutionize our lunch-eating experience forever. Lunchables is still a popular snack, and among its 26 varieties, one of the headliners is the Pizza Lunchable. But this particular variety became a flashpoint for controversy when Oscar Mayer did away with the small, red, sauce-spreading stick that had come included with it in the early 2000s. And honestly, who doesn't understand that frustration? What are we supposed to spread the sauce with now? Our car keys? A finger? Someone else's finger? Thanks for nothing, Oscar Mayer. On July 8, 1982, the Coca-Cola Company introduced the world to Diet Coke, a low-calorie drink using artificial sweeteners to replace the cane sugar in the original Coca-Cola recipe. As far as diet beverages go, it was no less monumental than the moon landing, although generally more profitable. The drink was an instant success, and it remains wildly popular. And apparently, one of the drink's biggest fans was none other than the moonwalker himself, Michael Jackson. But as it turns out, the singer wasn't really into the taste or even its diet-friendly properties. No, he was really just in it for the can. Seriously, according to Vanity Fair, Jackson was in the habit of emptying out his Diet Coke cans and then refilling them with white wine, which he called Jesus juice, or with red wine, which he called Jesus blood. Those may have also been the names of both records on History. Then he would just drink wine out of the soda cans, always Sunny style. Since the release of Diet Coke, Coca-Cola has released 12 other versions, including caffeine-free Diet Coke, Diet Cherry Coke, Diet Vanilla Coke, Diet Coke with lime, and Diet Coke with citrus zest. And while they did partner up with Jack Daniels to make ready-to-drink Coke-based alcoholic beverages, they have yet to release Jesus Juice. Since 1987, Red Bull has been a staple in the highly competitive energy drink world. We did a whole episode about it. According to its official website, inspired by functional drinks from the Far East, Dietrich Mateschitz founded Red Bull in the mid-1980s. A completely new product category was born: energy drinks. That's not entirely true, but without stopping to split too many hairs, Red Bull was undeniably the product that made energy drinks a worldwide industry. To put it another way, Red Bull gave energy drinks wings. Based on the drink's bull-inclusive name, most people seem to assume that the logo on the can is two angry bulls squaring off. But surprisingly, this is not the case. The bovines depicted on the beverage are actually gaurs, or Indian bison. Why? Well, the idea for the logo came from the Krating Dang energy drink, from which Red Bull was originally derived. Anything else you might have heard is likely a load of, well, you know. Although it was created in the 1940s, ranch flavoring didn't become popular until the late 1980s, thanks mostly to plumber-turned-cowboy Steve Henson. Who among us hasn't dreamed of trading in their wrench for the open range? The Nebraskan spent years perfecting his tasty buttermilk dressing on his ranch, Hidden Valley Ranch. Hey, we did an episode about that, too. Henson began serving his mixture to friends and family, before ultimately selling the name and recipe to Clorox for $8 million. Apparently, they were interested in making flavored bleach. The ranch craze spread from salads to dips to Doritos, and finally, to soda. Today, there's a company called Lester's Fixins, which is a line of sodas owned by Rocket Fizz, known for creating some interesting flavors. And thanks largely to Henson's efforts in the 80s, one of the more popular offerings is a ranch dressing soda. In an interview with the Huffington Post, Rocket Fizz co-founder Rob Powells explained the idea behind the bizarre flavor, saying, "My Rocket Fizz business partner and I were eating lunch, and he went overboard with using ranch dressing. I told him we ought to bottle a ranch dressing soda, so we can have ranch dressing at his beck and call 24/7. So they did. Let's hope they got our letter about mayonnaise floats. So what do you think? Were you a fan of any of these 80s-era snack foods? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other Weird History videos.